Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the most dramatic, unpredictable, and sometimes chaotic football story of all time. Chelsea Football Club turning 120 today. Yes, 120 years of history, trophies, heartbreaks, billionaire sugar daddies, transfer bans, managerial sackings, and most importantly expensive flops. Chelsea's history is basically a soap opera with multiple season finales, some happy, some tragic, and some that left fans questioning their life choices. So how did a club founded in a pub in 1905 turn into a global football powerhouse? Buckle up as we take you through Chelsea's 120-year journey, where spending money fixes everything until it doesn't. 1. The founding, a pub, a dream, and a big stadium. It all started in 1905, when Gus Mears had a stadium, Stamford Bridge, and no team to play in it. So like any ambitious entrepreneur, he created one. And where did this historic decision take place? A boardroom, a grand football congress? Nope, a pub. Because obviously all great ideas start when people have had a few too many. Chelsea FC was born at the Rising Sun pub on Fulham Road. So basically this club was conceived over a pint and some questionable footballing optimism. Imagine Gus Mears pitching this idea. Lads, let's start a football club, sign big names, and dominate England. And then someone in the back yells, cheers to that. Starting a club in a pub makes perfect sense, because even in 1905, Chelsea fans needed alcohol to survive some of the things their team would put them through. They could have named the club Stamford FC, but they went with Chelsea's instead. Why? Because branding, my friends. Even in 1905, marketing mattered. But here's the funny part. Chelsea were ambitious right from the start. Unlike other clubs that slowly built their teams, Chelsea went full new money's mode immediately. They started throwing cash at big-name players before they even had a solid squad. Think of them as the Manchester City of the early 1900s, except without the trophies. Their first major signing? A 23-stone goalkeeper named Willy Fatty Falke. Because if you can't win games, you might as well have a goalkeeper who can block the entire goal just by standing there. 2. The early years. Big crowds. No trophies. Chelsea wasted no time making a name for themselves by signing big players, packing Stamford Bridge with fans, and winning absolutely nothing. They reached their first FA Cup final in 1915 but lost to Sheffield United, and from then on Chelsea perfected the art of almost winning for the next 40 years. Chelsea's early years were like an expensive first date, plenty of effort, big spending, but no happy endings. Back in 1915, Chelsea reached the FA Cup final and lost. Some traditions never die, huh? The early Chelsea teams were a lot like modern Chelsea, full of big names but somehow managing to underperform spectacularly. Despite the lack of silverware, Chelsea had one thing going for them. Stamford Bridge was packed. The club quickly became one of the best supported teams in England, pulling in massive crowds of 60,000 plus for big matches. It was basically the football version of a blockbuster movie with no Oscars. People still showed up for the spectacle. The club became known for its flair, attracting star players and showmen. But their defense, well, let's just say, they played with the kind of generosity that made their opponents feel truly welcome. It was all vibes, no trophies like a modern-day influencer with millions of followers but zero meaningful achievements. 3. The first big break, 1955. Chelsea wins the league. Then, in 1955, something shocking happened. Chelsea actually won the league. Yes, the club that had been mastering almost winning finally got it right under Ted Drake. Chelsea went from mid-table nobodies to champions of England, and suddenly people had to take them seriously. But don't worry, that feeling didn't last long. Winning the league in 1955 was a miracle. Chelsea fans must have looked at the table like, wait, we actually won? Chelsea's strategy was simple. Play attacking football, score goals, and hope no one noticed their defending was as sturdy as a wet paper towel. Roy Bentley was the captain and top scorer, proving that sometimes, all you need is one guy to carry the entire team on his back. What made this league win even funnier? Chelsea weren't even the favorites. In fact, nobody saw it coming, not even their own fans. It was like watching an underdog rom-com where the nerdy kid suddenly gets the girl at the end. Ted Drake had revolutionized the team, ditching the pensioners' nickname and bringing in a modern no-nonsense style of play. The squad responded by playing like men possessed, ending the season with a 10-match unbeaten run. Of course, in true Chelsea fashion, they celebrated by doing absolutely nothing in Europe the following season, because back then, English clubs thought the European Cup was just a passing trend. Classic. 4. The 1970s. The FA Cup, European glory and chaos. After another long dry spell, Chelsea finally won the FA Cup in 1970. And not just any FA Cup, one of the most brutal, bone-crunching, how was this legal, matches in football history against Leeds United. Then in 1971, Chelsea won their first European trophy, the UEFA Cup Winners' Cup, beating Real Madrid. Yes, Chelsea beat Real Madrid in a European final. Somebody write that down because it might never happen again. The 1970 FA Cup final was basically football meets MMA, tackles flying, elbows swinging, and somehow only two players left with functional knees. Chelsea in Europe in the 70s was like a rock band going on tour, wild, unpredictable, and always entertaining. Beating Real Madrid in a final, peak Chelsea randomness. One moment you're mid-table in England, the next you're lifting European silverware. And just when things were looking up, Chelsea did what Chelsea does best, self-destruct. The early 70s were glorious, but by the mid-70s the club was unraveling faster than a cheap suit. Financial mismanagement, poor squad planning, and an overly ambitious Stamford Bridge redevelopment left Chelsea in a financial mess. The club had spent big on stars like Peter Osgood and Alan Hudson, but when results started to dip, the party was over. By the late 70s, Chelsea had gone from FA Cup and European champions to a struggling side heading for relegation. It was like winning the lottery and then immediately blowing it all on bad investments. A true Chelsea tradition. 5. The 1980s. The club nearly ceased to exist. Then came the 80s and Chelsea almost vanished into the football abyss. Financial problems, hooliganism, and almost losing Stamford Bridge to property developers. But then Ken Bates bought the club for, wait for it, £1. That's right, £1. Cheaper than a meal deal at Tesco. Ken Bates bought Chelsea for less than the price of a matchday hot dog, and somehow that was still considered a risky investment. Chelsea's 80s era was like a reality show: bankruptcy, relegation battles, and fans causing chaos. Someone should have filmed it and called it Survivor Stamford Bridge. Imagine buying a football team for £1 and then watching it turn into a billion-dollar empire. Ken Bates really did the ultimate resale flip. But let's talk about Stamford Bridge, because Chelsea nearly lost it altogether. Property developers were circling like vultures, and for a while it looked like the club might have to pack up and play elsewhere. The plan? Flatten Stamford Bridge and turn it into a shopping center. Yes, Chelsea was one dodgy deal away from playing home games in some random London park, while people shopped for groceries where the penalty box used to be. Bates fought tooth and nail to regain control of the stadium, and after years of legal battles, Stamford Bridge was saved. Moral of the story: never let your landlord own your football club. 6. The Roman Empire begins. 2003. Football cheat code activated. Then in 2003, Chelsea found their fairy godfather, Russian billionaire Roman Abramovich, who arrived with unlimited money and no patience for failure. Abramovich spent like a man on FIFA career mode, with infinite budget, and just like that, Chelsea went from struggling to superclub overnight. Roman pulled up and said, "How much for the best players in the world?" Chelsea's transfer policy became buy first, ask questions later. Jose Mourinho arrived in 2004 and declared himself the special one. And to be fair, he backed it up by winning back-to-back Premier League titles. Chelsea under Roman was like a Netflix series, new managers every season, shocking plot twists, and a guaranteed trophy at the end. But here's the real genius of Abramovich. He didn't just throw money at players, he built a winning machine. Chelsea's training ground was upgraded, youth development improved, even if they still barely played the academy kids, and world-class managers were rotated like iPhone updates. The club quickly became a nightmare for everyone else in England. Suddenly, Manchester United and Arsenal realized they had a new problem. This wasn't just a rich club, it was a ruthless, trophy-hunting machine. Roman didn't just want Chelsea to win, he wanted domination. And with every sacked manager, every high-stakes transfer, and every dramatic last-minute goal, Chelsea cemented themselves as the club nobody could ignore. 7. Champions of Europe, 2012 and 2021. The underdog stories. Then came Chelsea's most iconic moment, winning the 2012 Champions League against Bayern Munich in their own stadium, after defending for 90 minutes like their lives depended on it. And then, in 2021, Chelsea won it again, because if there's one thing Chelsea loves, it's hiring managers mid-season and somehow winning the biggest trophy in football. Didier Drogba in 2012 was like the main character in an action movie, saving the day at the last second. Chelsea winning the Champions League with Roberto Di Matteo was the football equivalent of a substitute teacher leading the class to victory. 2021 was just classic Chelsea: fire a manager, confuse the world, then win the Champions League. Repeat. But what makes these two wins even more ridiculous is how nobody expected them. In 2012, Chelsea were underdogs, struggling in the Premier League, and surviving by pure chaos. In 2021, they were in 9th place when Thomas Tuchel took over. Both times, Chelsea went from being a meme to being European champions in a matter of months. And both times, they relied on rock-solid defending, clinical counterattacks, and a sprinkle of pure destiny. It's as if Chelsea's Champions League playbook reads, Step 1. Sack manager. Step 2. Confuse everyone. Step 3. Lift the trophy. And honestly, it works. 8. The future. More money, more problems. Now under new owners, Chelsea is still spending billions, still sacking managers like it's a hobby, and still confusing everyone with their transfer strategy. But one thing remains certain. Love them or hate them, Chelsea is never boring. Closing thoughts. Drop your takes. What do you think? Will Chelsea's next 120 years be just as chaotic? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, and subscribe for more football madness. And remember, if you ever feel financially irresponsible, just know Chelsea once spent over £600 million in one transfer window. See you next time.